Hey guys, we're so glad you're here today. We're all excited about this presentation and I think we're all looking forward to it. Looking to make sure Shane's in the back there. We good? Okay, fantastic. Okay, great. I'm Hillary. I'm so glad that you're here today. We are looking forward to it. Shane Morris is going to talk to us, but let me tell you a little bit about him first. He's a senior technologist, data engineer, and AI builder. This is a fun one. He works at the intersection of national security and federal innovation while curating a deep love for absurdly specific dipping sauces. Shane, we want more info on that. He's built scalable data systems for the Army, Navy, and Air Force, designed anomaly detection frameworks from critical infrastructure, and led AI enablement efforts across DoD and civilian agencies. Shane also moonlights as a tech influencer with a significant TikTok following. He breaks down policy, bureaucracy, and machine learning with a voice that's equal parts professor and stand-up comic. He's worked with the DoD, DHS, and a host of other alphabet agencies, and still somehow finds time to make terrible dad jokes on the internet. Prior to his career working with the federal government, Shane enjoyed over a decade-long run in the music business, which means his playlists are probably better than yours. You guys, please help me welcome Shane Morris.
All right, let me get plugged in here, and while I'm getting plugged in, I'll do a fun little intro. I am admittedly a little new to the federal contracting space. I've been here for about 5 or 6 years now. But I got a room full of people, and whenever I get to acknowledge this, I want to make sure everybody knows that I don't do this by myself. I'm here because I've had wonderful teammates that I've been able to work with. Some of them are here. There are some obscenely accomplished resumes in this room right now. I see a lot of young people in front of me. My friend Devin Hill, I'm going to acknowledge him. I actually met Devin when I was up in Nashville. Devin was part of the team that put the first large language model on the International Space Station. An extremely talented guy, but I met him because he was a sick guitar player. That's why I know Devin. So if you ever think, where am I today? Can I pursue the arts? Can I also pursue computer science? Devin's a brilliant example of that. And then obviously, my buddy Matt's going to be joining me on stage in a minute. Insanely talented engineer, but I just want to make sure I acknowledge that I don't do this by myself, and my screen's going to sleep, which is cool too. Let's make sure we do this right. Cool. Slideshow? I'm going to learn how to do this. Sorry, I'm a Linux person, not a Mac person, so I just bought this, and I'm going to learn how to do this. Choose content, window or app. Real pro, guys, real pro. Cool. All right, now I'm doing what I'm doing. All right, so a little background. How many of you guys do laundry? You guys do your own laundry at home? Everybody doing laundry? One of my biggest challenges in doing laundry, and I think you guys can appreciate this, is that I'm really good at getting it into the washing machine. I can get the soap on, I can get it in the dryer. But once it gets into the dryer, I'm never taking it out. There's a feedback mechanism called the tumble cycle, where I can heat my clothes up for 10 minutes, and when it's warm outside, I actually like getting my clothes out of the dryer. We're in the trash pan is. I'm like a raccoon. I love going through the trash, right? And that's what the data problem is when we think about building AI-enabled applications. Is it really, going back to the earliest points in my professional career, getting the data was always a challenge. Before I worked in the federal space, I worked in the music industry. I was a manager for some popular artists that I'm not going to name drop because it's tacky. And then I also worked at the label. But the issue we had was I've got streaming data, and I've got your YouTube data, and I've got your social media, and I've got your sales, I've got ticketing, I've got live events, I've got your merch. And it's all run by different companies. Live Nation doesn't like talking to Ticketmaster. Spotify doesn't like talking to Apple Music. And I've got to ingest all this and get a picture of what's going on. I became a good data engineer because I had to, because everything was disorganized and it was a mess. And when you're building any application for the federal government, whether it's NASA applications, Earth Sciences, Forest Service, it could be ingesting data for the DoD, you're going to run into a mess. Federal agencies are cool in that they're going to offer you structured data. You're going to get a good picture of where everything comes from. You're going to know what it does. It's extremely well documented. But none of this is designed to work together. Not a single thing. And that's one of the biggest challenges when we talk about getting intelligence out of something, is that it's fragmented by design, but it also makes building applications on it kind of tedious and impossible, because everybody in this room wants to build agentic systems. I do. In real terms, in practice, agentic systems are brilliantly easy to deploy. The hard part is getting any of your data to where you want to get it. Now, when I was working in country music, right, it was always a challenge because I was talking to someone who was a manager for, country artists out of Oklahoma. We just signed with Sony Music. And these are not data people. And I want to help you understand something. Scientists are not necessarily always people who understand their own data either. They're in many ways no better than the bartender who is now managing a country artist in Nashville. What do you want? I need your analytics data. Can you spell analytics for me really fast? A-N-A-L. No, I'm not doing that. No, just let me finish the word. Just please, let me finish the word. Analytics. I need your analytics data. So the issue we run into, there's kids in there. You guys are old enough. You're here to joke. Listen. So I wanted to build something that would allow me to simulate storm damage. I just came out of winter storm. I was kind of inspired by this, being a victim of Hurricane Harvey down in Houston. It's awkward when there's 6 feet of water in your house. And so I wanted to be able to better damage model, right? Somewhat famously, and you guys can find this on my GitHub, I built an engine for a roofing shingle company to better understand how many roofs they needed to fix in an area. How do you think I did that? Anybody take a guess at it? How do I, after a storm, tell you exactly how many roofing shingles you need to send to an area? What do you think we do? Count the blue tarps. So I built an engine to just look for blue. That was it. It was one of the first machine learning enabled applications I built way back in 2015. Why? Because I was trying to make money from a roofing shingle company, and I wanted to make sure that I could be the middleman for that. So when I have all these different API availabilities, right, I've got a whole bunch of different S3 buckets. I've got REST APIs. I'm going to talk about GraphQL API in a minute. They're going to update different cadences. It's not designed. These pipelines aren't going to work together. You got to assemble them on your own. It's the reason that companies like State Farm have backed out of the Florida insurance market entirely. They simply will not insure you in Florida. It doesn't mean they couldn't. It just means that they don't want to do the data engineering work. Metaphorically, they do not want to get the clothes out of the dryer and fold them and put them away. That takes actual work. Like, if there was a single thing that I could do, any robot, any AI engineer, build the laundry robot. I promise you'll make millions. I would pay any amount of money for that. So I want to talk about ETL. Anybody know what ETL is? We got any ETL fans in the room? So for a long time, I used this tool called Apache Airflow. And Airflow was great. Came out of Airbnb, and then it went to the Apache Foundation. So the Apache Foundation tends to do software by osmosis. Sometimes people will donate it. But Airbnb had a really cool data engineering problem because they were basically the world's biggest hotel, but then without the hotel part, and then every single place that they were allowing you to stay in was completely and totally different. So I actually think that, from a data engineering standpoint, Airbnb is probably the gold standard of messes you need to clean up when it comes to data pipelines. Everybody's house is different. There's different parking situations, different. That's why Airflow is so cool. And then Airbnb launches it out, and Airflow just kind of stagnates. The guy who was the head of engineering at Airbnb is my good friend Tommy Dang. Tommy Dang is Adderall in human form. He is just something brilliant. And this guy can just really understand data engineering in a way that, I'm a good data engineer. Like, you guys know Brian Scalabrine, one of the worst NBA players ever. I'm really good, but he's LeBron. Like, that's who he is. So me being Scalabrine, I look up to Tommy. And he started making this product called Mage. And it was about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago now. And I was like, yo, this is the coolest data engineering product I've ever made. Of course, very niche audience. You know, data engineering is the boring stuff, but you got to do it right. Once again, you fold your laundry and you put it away, you know where your clothes are. Otherwise, you're like me. When I say I have mismatched socks on right now, I ain't even playing, right? It's Airflow 2.0 if it actually meant something. But Mage, Mage wins because you have a visual pipeline builder, and you have real-time debugging, and you have built-in LLM assistance. So you can pull in with Mage Pro Quinn, or you can pull in Anthropic's code, or you can, whatever you want to do. You can pull in any model you want as a coding assistant. It's got native Python and SQL blocks and R for the data scientists out there if you want to do cool data science stuff. Observability by default. Git managed. It's everything that I wanted Airflow to be. And Airflow is, by the way, a great product. There's you guys may remember a couple months ago on LinkedIn, there was that CEO of Astronomer who got caught at the Coldplay concert. Astronomer is just Airflow managed, right? And he's got a multi-million-dollar company on that. Also, Coldplay. Just listen to Radiohead. It's better. Sorry for the Coldplay fan. So I will hawk my wares here. Mage has an Apache 2 license. Apache 2 means kind of open source, and you can do cool stuff with it. And Matt, who's going to demo Mage in a second for us, he's sitting back there. Matt and I really, really wanted to use Mage in a federal environment. And we couldn't, because there's these things called external dependencies. And Mage, Tommy's business partner, Xiao Yu, brilliant engineer, also a Chinese citizen. Ask me how hard it is to tell the Navy that we should have some Chinese-made software on there. It's not going to work. So we talked to Tommy about it. I said, Tommy, buddy, I need this in the federal government. And he was like, Shane, I understand, but I'm too happy doing commercial products. I would love to, but I'm working with Samsung and Verizon. I don't want to go through a federal procurement process. There are any procurement people in here. You know how tedious and painful it is. So I said, make me an Apache 2 license, and I'll just harden it myself. And of course, when I say harden it myself, I mean Matt and I are going to do it together, and then Matt's probably going to do the bulk of the work on it. I'm a TikToker, guys. Come on, I'm busy. And so yeah, look, honestly, you want the balding Polish guy or the guy with the mullet and the grill? Somebody's got to be the lead singer of the band, right? So it's hardened now, and it's being used by SOCOM and the United States Army Special Operations Command, because hardening things takes a lot of work. And so I'm going to show you guys a demo in a minute. Matt, you can go and start walk up here. There's two parts of this demo. I'm going to show you Mage, and then I'm going to show you Devi. Devi, boop, is a GraphQL maker. Anthony was supposed to be here today. He lives in a place called North Dakota. Star Wars joke. Should play at NASA. Come on, man. No, he lives up in North Dakota, and he was supposed to fly out, but flight surfaces do really poorly when it's like freezing. And so he wasn't able to make it. So we're going to phone him in a minute. Come on, man. I can kill time, bro. I'll give him 5 minutes on airline food, you know? But he's going to come in, and what we're going to do is show you what you can do with Mage pipelines in real time. Let me get this out of your way real quick. And I'll kind of give you the problem. We built this as a simulator for the US Navy. There is no actual Navy data in here, but it is a naval surface warfare simulation. I want to be able to ingest all movement and then fuel consumption. Obviously, you know, your aircraft carrier groups are nuclear powered, but they also, you know, the smaller ones use fuel. So we need to know fuel consumption. We need to know how far we can go, what we can do, what our ability to do that is, and I want to be able to render that on a map. GraphQL lends itself really, really well to geospatial stuff. Hey, Matt, just do your thing, bro. I'm like 5 minutes, yeah.
Hey, everybody. I'm Matt Matuszewski. I'll just do a quick intro for myself. I've been in defense for about 6 years and change. Since then, I've worked at Lockheed, Raytheon, General Dynamics. I'm super passionate about just bringing tech into the federal space, and fortunately, our very strong alliance has made a lot of really interesting projects possible. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through our hardened Mage instance. It was incredibly difficult to make. We removed close to 1,000 vulnerabilities in order for it to pass and actually be approved and approvable in IL4, IL6, any of those type environments. So without further ado, right here, this is your main dashboard. You can go ahead and display your runs from the last 30 days, today, last 7 days. Generally, when you're using something like Airflow, you're going to be spending a lot of time going back and debugging and creating new pipelines from the existing scripts that you did previously. which is usually a major pain. However, fortunately, Tommy was very good about just understanding the general ETL workflow and trying to negate any kind of friction that comes along with that. Data engineers are by far the unsung heroes in the AI world. I think anybody that actually knows enough from a technical standpoint will tell you that, because garbage in is garbage out. As far as data is concerned, your agent can perform perfectly, but if you got crappy data, you're out of luck. So right here, you could see, for those of you that are familiar with Airflow, you got your DAG over here, your directed acrylic graph. And we're ingesting data. And what's awesome about this is if I go ahead and scroll down, without even having to type manually and reuse the exact same things, go back to old files, old pipelines, and pull them out, I can save them inside of our Mage instance. Let's just say I want to load data. It's already there. Every single boilerplate template, rather than going to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever and asking it for a new way to, oh, how do I, ingest this API or something like that. It's already baked in. So you go from standing up a data pipeline of varying complexity in like an hour to like 10 minutes. And as far as like controls are concerned, from an administrative standpoint, you can control down to the actual cell in a certain pipeline for any kind of RBAC that you need for permissions. And you can run every single cell in Python, SQL, or R, so it doesn't matter. You can switch languages however you want. So let's go ahead and move on to triggers over here. Just like anything typical in an API, in an ETL pipeline, you can go ahead and edit your trigger, schedule it, do it on an API call to check for updates, run your cron jobs or however you decide to do it. Check your run stats, check your logs. I'm actually going to go back to the pipeline really quick because I forgot about something over here. Right here, we can set variables, and we have a built-in secrets manager, so you don't have to go outside for that. Depending on how you decide to deploy it, if you're doing containerized and you want to keep your secrets in GitLab, go for it. If you want to do it inside, that's totally fine too. Conditionals and callbacks are all built in. There's a built-in terminal for you to do whatever you need to do. I'm not saying it's the best thing since sliced bread when it comes to data engineering, but I am kind of saying that. It has massively increased my productivity to be able to just go ahead and use this tool. We firmly believe it's the best data engineering open source platform out there, which is why we really wanted to get into the federal space. And honestly, I don't know how much more I can gush about this. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. And I want to kind of explain why this stuff's important. In real terms, and I was hesitant to bring this up, but I'll do it because it'll resonate with the young people in the room. When I was managing this rapper named Travis Scott, you've probably heard of him, people always noted that, true story, really was Travis Scott's manager. Like, why are you doing? Yeah, I saw your face. What are you doing here now? Real work that pays. We famously built one of the most complex data management solutions out there. Yeah, good producer, good rapper. There's a lot of them out there. But how is it that Travis Scott was able to instantly respond with fire emojis to every SoundCloud comment? Was Travis really doing that? No, I wrote a script. I had an ingestion flow. I wrote a script for that. I don't actually have this guy hitting fire emoji, swag. No, he's not actually doing that. That was a bot, right? But the thing is, fan engagement matters. So whether I'm doing engagement here, am I plugged back in? Sick. It's not working? What'd you do?
I broke it, sorry.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. Yeah, I'll figure it out. I know how to do things, and if not, the AV guy will help me. Let's see here. I'm going to use a reference that there's going to be an age line here. We're going to do a phone a friend. So like I said, my friend Anthony was supposed to be here today. Listen, well, actually, can somebody help me? I really don't know why I'm not getting the screen up here. Yeah, AV guy. Thank you, man. What did I do? Screen mirroring? I'm gonna kill time really fast. So basically, why would you use something like Mage? And what do we do with the Navy, right? I've got a lot of different databases that I may want to connect from the Navy. I might have some for fuel depots because the fuel system's logistics. Navy logistics, right? Defense Logistics Agency. You can't spell delay without DLA. That's the joke. If you want to be able to connect to the fuel depots, but then you've also got your ordnance in a different database. And I have all of my information about human resources in my manpower in a completely different database. I think we're good, yeah. what we run into is that when you need to connect to 3, 5, 10 different databases, orchestrate your workflow, have things trigger off of each other. If this, then this happens. I need to do real-time transformations. And this happens a lot when we're doing foreign exercises. Here in the United States, we don't use the metric system, we use standard, because when you really think about it, why would you ever use something like base 10? I mean, base 12 with 3 in increments is so much easier, and what? But you have to do conversions, right? Because sometimes we're getting fuel in liters versus gallons. And so what I discovered was that now I've got all this data in, and I need to make it go somewhere. So we're going to call Anthony. Am I connected to the internet? Let's see if we can huddle with Anthony. Let's see if Anthony's going to join. He should be here. Oh. Tom, text Anthony. Anthony. So what happens next? Okay, I will. Maybe I'll connect to my. Let's try this option here. I'm gonna tether to my phone really fast here. Anthony's gonna give a demo. What happened here? Did I have something embarrassing on my screen? Oh, is it Daddy Morris? I'm a dad. I have 3 kids. It's okay. It's not like a weird thing. I promise. It's not embarrassing. It's just that's what my children literally have a 6, a 3, and a 5, a 10-month-old. Let me live, guys. Anthony, can you hear me? There he is. No, I don't want to turn video on. All right, Anthony.
What's happening?
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you,
All right,
yeah.
share your screen, man. Let me blow you up really fast. I was just talking about you.
Nice. Okay then.
So this is Anthony Malzahn. He is the CEO of Dev. I can only while you're sharing your screen, before I'm going to introduce this guy. I was up in Grand Forks, North Dakota, Grand Forks Air Force Base for the UAS convention, and I met this guy singing karaoke, and I knew he was a great software engineer because he was dreadful at karaoke, but he's good. But he's enthusiastic. He's a really great attitude, and he told me about his product, and I was like, wait a second, this is the coolest thing ever. So Anthony works a lot in ag. Ag uses maps a lot. They have to ingest a lot of different systems and output it all. Like I said, Anthony was supposed to be here today. Anthony, you talking?
No, I'm just letting you do your thing.
Oh, yeah,
I'm just doing
okay.
the really boring part.
Yeah. So do the boring part on the back end. So he said, I can take any SQL database and instantly create a GraphQL API. And I said, bro, you're lying. And he's like, no, man, I really built it. Because this is the thing, if you ever built a GraphQL API from scratch, it is tedious and annoying and it sucks. And he said, no, I can do it in 5 minutes. And I said, I'm not gay, but I'm going to make out with you right now, bro. That's the coolest thing I've ever heard. So anyway, Anthony, demo your thing, man. Show them how fast you can make a GraphQL API.
Yeah, and if you guys can hear me okay, a little bit of context. Yeah, I might have been singing karaoke, but this guy comes up and you see just how badass mafia he's looking, and he's got this leather Marge Simpson jacket on, this faces of Marge Simpson. So I'm like, this is the guy I need to talk to in the sea of everyone. And he gave me 5 minutes. He goes, yep, I get exactly what you do. And it had been about, a quick 6 months before I was able to have a conversation where I just got to say what we actually did. So I really appreciated that. And yes, the context is that my co-founder and I, we spent several years in precision agriculture, taking disparate sources from satellite, manned aircraft, drone imagery when it came about, and then doing custom analytics and analyzing acres of fields, contiguous, non-contiguous, holes in it, punched out. We're geospatial nerds. And we ended up analyzing about, 600 or 700 million acres every single day that we automatically distributed to the growers, the farmers, and the agriculturists, so they get daily insights on the conditions and the yield likelihood based on the imagery, like the near infrared and the algorithms like index, like NDVI stuff. So, but anyway, we're here to talk a little bit about how this platform works. I'm guessing Mr. Mateusz Marczewski actually has already done the synthetic.
You got it. Matt just finished. Yes? Yep, Matt just finished, man.
Awesome. So what we've done here, we log into the portal here, and this is just our SaaS offering that we've got. So it runs the same installation. It's just available for folks to use in a shared hosting environment. If any database engineers or engineering nerds are in the audience, you've probably seen this a few times. So it's a literal database name, the host name, which type of platform it is. As Shane had mentioned, we support about 88% of SQL databases out of the box, and we've got drivers to support 99.6% of all databases, SQL databases that are in use today. Heck, even IBM DB2 if you really need it. And then what we're going to do now is we're actually just going to test to see if the credentials that we've got allow us to even look at the database schema for what in this case is a serverless Postgres database. And it looks like we can connect as long as we have read-only access to the schema. Now we can actually go in and take a look at what tables are available for all of the available schemas. And if you're familiar with database universe, you'll know that Postgres is pretty flexible from a geospatial standpoint, but also from a multi-schema standpoint, which is what Devi also supports. So it looks like we've got 37 tables in here, and we could just add all the tables and build out the API, the documentation, the endpoints, and a root policy, which is denied by default, by the way. Or we can actually pick from this list. And what I want to do is I actually just want to get fuel consumption. Let's say, where we go? Fuel consumption. Let's get platforms. And I'm guessing there's already context, Shane, on what the database is all about when Matt presented.
Navy surface warfare. They got a little primer on it. You got a lot of people here who are ready to become Navy SEALs. So yeah, something like that. Yeah.
My guess is that you responded to them. I couldn't quite hear you.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, you got it.
Sounded great otherwise.
Keep it moving, bud. You got it. You're strong. You look good.
All right, cool. All right. So I've got these 4 tables that I'm going to be bringing over to generate our endpoint. And it's the fuel consumption, the platforms, tracks, and track history. And if memory serves me right here, what it's going to do now is it's going to look at any tables that might be related. Okay, the demo's already done, but I need to finish what actually happened. So in that time span, this generated the actual GraphQL schema, GraphQL API for both queries and mutations. Shane had mentioned the manipulations piece. We built an engine that automatically does the safe generation of the mutations. So the hard part of APIs and policy, as you can see here. And it looks like documentation was output as well. So it automatically generates documentation. And it looks like it pulled in sensors, which I believe had a relationship to the tracks. That's right. So it looks at the foreign key relationships of any tables you bring over, and then also yanks those tables over so you can actually do queries and subqueries through that single endpoint. So let's roll right into it, on the assumption that Matt had run through and put some fuel records in place. Let's go ahead and take a look at what fuel records are available. So we're looking at the fuel consumption table. And you'll see here are the available fields, what types they are. And what I've done is I've asked for the fuel consumed gallons, the remaining gallons for the platform ID, and then I have actually done a subquery into the platform to also get the class name that's related to this particular table. And it looks like we've got several records that have come back. Now, what I would like to do, I am only interested in platforms that have consumed more than 120,000 gallons. So we built a filter expression layer. So you can actually write SQL-like where clauses as a front-end engineer. You don't have to muck with the back-end engineers who are doing their own other important things. And I want to order those, the consumed gallon descending. So let's take a look at who's done more. So yep, there we go. And it still shows all of our information. That's quite a bit of records. And now let's keep going. One of the other things that the middleware that we have, the output, is aggregate functions. So some of the database functions, we just ship kind of a starter kit. You can add your own things like average, count, min, max, sum. What I want to do right now is I actually want to go in and let's take a look at the platforms that are actually consuming more than 105,000 gallons on average. So we're looking at fuel consumed gallons, and this is a subquery. So this is just, if you know JSON structures, it's pretty straightforward. Looking at the fuel consumed gallons, and I'm going to get the platform ID, but I'm only going to get it back for once it looks at all the records, and the average is more than 105,000. Excellent. So it looks like there's 2 platforms that we've got there, but I want more information. So I'm actually going to put in a subquery here, as we saw earlier, platform And let's go ahead and get the platform name, because an ID isn't, it's probably useful from a security standpoint, but we probably, did I get the other? I did. Okay, so the John Finn and the Nimitz, those are the two platforms. So just so you know, if you built a policy and you did not provide the ability for them to have access to this other table, all they'd get is the platform ID. That's it. Deny by default, and you can be very specific about what you can and cannot show, and that propagates across the tenant and an entire installation of our middleware. So if you so choose. So let's keep going. Let's take a look at. Got two more here that I want to take a look at. Let's take a look at the minimum amount. Which platform or platforms? I know that some records have been added, so it's going to be. I don't know, this might show 0 results. We're looking at the fuel consumption table, and let's take a look at there, fuel consumption. And we're looking at the remaining fuel remaining gallons, and we are actually going to be looking at the platform name. Is this? Yes, let's see. Excellent. So it looks like we've got the ones that have the least amount of all of the platforms. It's the Nimitz, Bunker Hill, Arley, and John Finn, and they all are empty. So they're just mucking about in the middle of the ocean. So that's too bad. All right. Finally, let's. One last thing I wanted to show is I set up the NASA present, and that was a reflection of the database that we linked. And we actually can link a database to multiple tenants and expose different parts, different tables, have a different API with a different policy. So you can actually create, if you wanted to, mutually exclusive endpoints for two tenants for the same database, and neither two shall touch each other if you need that or want that. And if we take a look here, I believe this one has, I'm thinking that this one has all 37 tables across the two schemas. And what I'm doing right here is, if we wanted to, we could actually, yep, looks like all 37. We could actually manipulate and yank some out, and to reintroduce the database takes a matter of mere moments, and you've got a brand new API endpoint with exactly what you need shown without breakage, because one endpoint for all of your integrations means that all of the business sits inside the endpoint. So no breakage is fun. And let's see, let's go back to GraphQL, the interface here, and schema is ready.
Well, wait, Anthony, I have a question. I got a question for
Yeah.
you. What happens if my data changes? Like, I mean, I built this stuff, but then there's a change to my database, the tables. Whatever would I do? I mean, it's going to take, I don't know, hundreds of hours to rebuild, right? What would you do then?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Shane. Thank you so much. What's interesting here is that if you try to ask for something that doesn't exist in the expo.
Oh no. Whoa.
What I will do is I will run this one query. I forgot one more query, and this is the fun one. And then I'll go through and I will pare down the database that we've got here. Actually, you know what? I'll actually go to the other database and I'll add a few more tables, and I'll show you just how easy it is to make that change. So this very last query I wanted to show is more of a geospatial nerdy one that I particularly enjoy. What we're going to look at here is where the platforms are right now. So we're going to get the position of their platforms. We're going to get some information about each of those platforms and the tracks that they're on. So this is where they're at. That's cool. But I want to filter for the current position. Which of these platforms is closest to the North Atlantic? So a few hundred miles off of the coast of North Carolina area. So let's take a look. And okay, right now it is the USS George H.W. Bush, and it looks like it's probably just right off the coast of the US here somewhere. And just like that, we're able to identify and actually do geospatial filtering through that same GraphQL endpoint. So let's go back as a wrap up here, this presentation. And you know what? We added another table. We changed a field, changed some type of record, maybe a type, doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and, com logs are important, and, waypoints are important. Let's go ahead and add those over as well. And you know what? I don't want fuel consumption anymore. Let's go ahead and move that back. And so now it's taking those 6 new tables, it's rerunning, looking at what foreign key relationships exist, and it has generated now new documentation, a new GraphQL API, and a schema, and that policy now reflects when you log in, you can only see those parts of the database so long as you are authorized to do so. So let's just take a quick look-see to make sure I'm not too far off my rocker here. And we got comm logs, we got navigation routes, platforms, navigation routes pulled in as it's related. And sensors, track history, tracks, and waypoints. And you saw that the fuel consumed is no longer present. So if that particular query that I was looking for earlier, let's make that query for the fuel consumed gallons, just so you can see what it looks like when it fails. You can't. You don't have access. Sorry. Come back another day when you got a chance. This is no longer recognized, which means developers don't have access to even seeing in their documentation what they can and cannot do unless they've been authorized to do so. The documentation ships with their login. It ships with their authorization. And of course, if you look at the manipulations, we've got the create, update, deletes. We actually have smart access for upserts, smart detect on whether or not a record already exists. If so, update. If not, create. Great for things like login, password generation, and LDAP or OAuth or third-party auth policies. With that, I'll pause. Shane, did I miss anything? And I hope I was able to be heard okay.
Yeah.
Blind to the audience, and I hope this was a good use of time.
I think you did really well. Now, for those of you who never developed a GraphQL API from scratch, this is a deterministic AI system. It's machine learning, but it's deterministic. There he is. There's me from when I was thinner. Anyway, I want to say one more thing. I'm really proud of Anthony. When I met him several years ago, they're just in Startupville. Recently, Anthony received some funding from a partnership called Titletown Tech between the Green Bay Packers and Microsoft. So he got a few $1,000,000 to get his company going. So everybody, give Anthony a round of applause for building stuff. You did a great job, man. I appreciate you being here. Thanks, Anthony. I'll talk to you soon, man.
Cheers. Enjoy it, everyone. If you've never met Shane before, what a treat. And if you've met him before, God, just go for seconds. It's fun. Have a good day, guys.
All right. We'll go back here and we'll pop the old slideshow. Is this how I do it? There we go. Look at me learning how to use computers. So the thing that I want to express there is that he just saved hundreds of hours. The thing that he just did used to take me days upon days upon days. Developing GraphQL APIs from scratch is a real pain. It sucks. But that's what I wanted to talk about. We talk about 2 types of things, right? When you blend deterministic systems and probabilistic systems, deterministic is yes or no. I need a real answer. I need to know whether or not you have access to this. I need to know whether my API works. Deterministic is this. Matt, did you flick boogers in my coffee this morning? I need a yes or no answer to that. It's going to change. You did. See, that's deterministic. I just need a yes or a no. Agentic systems are also probabilistic, right? That's like your large language models. That's ChatGPT. Sometimes they hallucinate. They get a little weird, right? And they're good. They're creative, right? But that's really where we have to be. When you're building a data workflow, when you're building applications, remember, the deterministic AI is probably the one that we don't talk about a whole lot. Hard machine learning models that are making decisions based upon a bunch of rule sets, and you can learn all those rule sets. That's what a GraphQL API is when you think about it. Whole bunch of different rules interacting with each other. And then you've got probabilistic. This is where I want to generate some code using Mage. I'm too lazy to write this Python. I don't want to do it right now. I don't want to read the pandas documentation. No, thank you. Use polars anyway. It's better, all right? Life hack. But that's what we want to do, right? I need to blend these 2 systems. And I know what it comes down to what does this mean? It means that metaphorically, you can get your clothes through the wash, folded and put away. You have to blend these 2 systems, right? I'm going to show you guys the reflect thing in just a second. It's kind of half working right now. If you guys didn't notice, there was a winter storm that went through. So some of the databases that are currently running in my basement will not function, but that's how life goes sometimes. So this kind of is an interesting piece because I really, really, really wanted to build this when I was working at Booz Allen. Boy, I really hope I can hit this refresh button and this map comes up. Am I connected to the internet? There we go. Woo, that was embarrassing. So when I was working at this company called Booz Allen Hamilton, you guys know what Booz Allen Hamilton is. It's like the CIA with less oversight, he jokes to himself. No, I was working at Booz, and I really, really wanted to build this thing. And I've had some really cool points in my professional career, but by far the coolest was working with this guy named JR, James Riley, the former NASA astronaut. He was one of my coworkers at Booz Allen. And he was really the guy that inspired me to build this. Here's a little story about James and why I think it's so important. We're here at Space Camp. My partner also, my wife, she works at NASA, and so there's been 2 points, and I sold 6 million records, which is really cool. I go to my house, and I absolutely flex on everybody when they walk in. They're like, oh, cool, platinum records. Yes, I do that. But the coolest part of my professional career was actually an interaction that I had with JR. I was working at Booz Allen, and we were on a conference call together. My son had just come home, and he had gone to the NASA gift shop at NASA HQ in DC, and he's holding the space shuttle, figure of the space shuttle. He walks in my office. He's not supposed to. When I'm on the middle of a Teams call, JR's there, and the coolest thing happened. JR stops the meeting and just becomes an astronaut. And he starts talking to my 4-year-old about how cool it is and how he can be an astronaut. And then you're all here, Space and Rocket Center. You can be an astronaut. I got to meet Jared Isaacman, private astronaut, the other night. He was sworn in as administrator. One of the nicest people in the whole world you'll ever meet was a woman named Pam Melroy. She was the deputy administrator for NASA up until recently. She told my 3-year-old daughter that she could be an astronaut if she wanted to. My daughter's 3. She's like, I could be an astronaut. Indeed, you can, right? But JR inspired this because I said, JR, I want to build a hurricane damage simulator. JR also went on to be the director of USGS, and I was like, hey, I need to pull in all this data. He's like, you know what? Let me introduce you to some people. I can get you all this data. Hell yeah. Let me get you all these systems. Got me on the phone. So I started building this, I don't know, a year ago. And then, of course, you have kids. Things get, busy. You're doing work. I don't get paid to do this kind of stuff. This is a cool project. But half of this will work, half of it won't. Because, once again, my server in my basement is currently not on. But we do have a local version that's pretty cool. But what I wanted to do was be able to, simulate hurricane damage and wind field zones and infrastructure and building risk and understand what it was going to cost to have a hurricane anywhere in the United States. I wanted to be able to simulate what it looks like when it goes up the Gulf Coast and hit this place right here. It's called Florida. Worst place in the world, apparently. No, it's fine. They've got like alligators and people on meth. It's fun. It's great. But I wanted to figure out what it was like when God inflicts all his wrath on a place that probably deserves it. And so what I did is I wanted to be able to create any kind of storm track over time and figure it out. And so the API output here is pretty cool because I'm going to be able to draw a storm that kind of darts up the coast here and then gets mad in Atlanta. I'm from Atlanta. I'm allowed to make fun of myself. All right. So we animate it, we run it in. And then the cool part is, on the backside, I wanted to just quickly build a really, really fast output API because, once again, Devi is the piece. I got to connect all these databases, GraphQL API, but I wanted to be able to have somebody quickly accessing that because, by the way, you can use GraphQL APIs and REST APIs. You don't have to be like either or. You can use both. And so all the outputs that happen from here go into our wind field and our wind location and our historical hurricanes. I can grab historical hurricanes and simulate those. The cool part is all of that gets reflected in here instantly. That's what it is. That's why it's called Reflect. It gets reflected instantly. Anyway, so the cool part here is how long did it take me to do this in terms of build up? And I'll be perfectly clear. I'm not a great front-end developer. I'm good, but not great. This took me about 3 days using Claude Code. Once again, not a Svelte guy. Don't do that, right? Good Python guy, good SQL guy. I'm okay at JavaScript and TypeScript. This is not my bag, but fully owning it, I didn't know how to build this any other way, but Claude Code got me there. So this is an agentic sort of built thing with a back end that Anthony and Matt supported building with Mage and Devi. So we're pulling in to get this data together, to have the maps, the overlays, the wind fields, the storm zones, the buildings, the storm tracks, what it's going to cost, the infrastructure costs, FEMA, USGS, the Forest Service. We have a layer in here that I can push in for shrubs to understand whether or not there's shrub data. Anthony tried to walk me through this because he knows a whole lot more about farming and soil moisture content, but basically the gist is like this. If the ground's already really wet, you're going to flood worse All right. Anyway, that's what I learned. Science. But anyway, this is something I built. And here's the cool part. As soon as I push it live, it'll probably go live tomorrow on my GitHub. This is going to be free and open source. I'm going to make it available to the world, free. You guys have a blast with it. Figure it out. I don't hoard software. That's not my jam. So the reflect and the Navy fuel consumption thing, like what can we learn about how we do things and how we build? Or one, let's say I want to support the DoD. Sometimes I do that from time to time. I need to be able to quickly support any Navy mission demand. If they have a new class of ship they're deploying, if they have manpower, limited manpower, you don't have the ability to fill billets right now. When I was working with Navy N1, which is manpower out of Millington, Tennessee, the Navy has a recruiting problem, and not because the Navy's not a cool thing to do. If you've ever considered a career in the military, I've got a lot of friends who are officers and Navy officers. But if you're thinking about going into any branch of the military, you can choose the Army, the Navy, the Air Force. They all pay the same. The difference is in the Navy, you're in the boat in the middle of nowhere. When you get off work, you're not going out to the bar to hang out with your friends. You're still on that damn boat. So the Navy's historically pretty challenging to recruit for because you got to get people who really love being out in the middle of the water. You end up with a whole lot of kind of interesting folks who are like introverts. You're an introvert, you might love the Navy. So the geospatial position tracking, like you can build anything with it, and that's what I think is fun. I like being able to build multiple things with the same tools. The stack that I keep going back to, and this is what I've been using for, I don't know, the past year or so, is being able to build with Mage for all of my pipeline stuff. My API layer, Debbie, GraphQL, deterministic secure, role-based access control, policy-based access control. Visualizations, put anything you want on top of it. GraphQL lends itself really well to geospatial work. If you do a lot of work with the federal government, or even with rappers, geospatial matters, right? I got to know how far away I am from fans to plan a tour, to know where all my fans are, stop to stop. It actually does kind of matter where people live when you're playing in a concert. Not everybody's going to come to you. And I can get data sources from anywhere. Any data type, transform it instantly. This stack is something that I'm working with every day, all the time. Everybody kind of gets comfortable, gets in their bag. This is my bag. And why, right? I can do so much now. Like, I don't do stimulants because Adderall makes me feel like I'm gonna have a heart attack. But man, like, I'm told that with the developers that do Adderall, this is how they feel. This is like getting turbocharged, right? Like, the things that I can do with Mage and Debbie today and other deterministic and probabilistic MIST systems make me feel like, man, if you would have told me 10 years ago that I could do this, I would have cried. Because like now one person could do 10 times the work. And I know a lot of people have these concerns like, oh man, AI is going to put us out of work. No, there are just a lot of things we didn't do before because I was lazy, didn't want to do it, like took a long time. I have no excuses now. I mean, there's going to be a phalanx of data engineers who can now build the most niche things. I am still convinced to this day. I talked to some people from this company called Swiss Re, which is a reinsurance company. I think the main reason that a lot of insurance companies backed out of Florida is because they didn't want to do the data engineering. They didn't want to do the hard work. It was a lot easier for them to throw up their hands and be like, dude, this is going to take thousands of man hours. No thanks. I'm out. But now, even things that are kind of niche, that are harder to perform in, you can. And once again, I know there's going to be a lot of people talking about the cool computer vision systems and video recognition and all that. The thing I'm going to express to you is, yes, there are so many cool agentic tools out there that you can use, but your enterprise's data, whether it's the federal government, your private company, is garbage. I don't care. I've never been in any organization where it's clean or organized because no one wants to do it. It's the laundry problem. Nobody wants to fold it and put it away. So why do I say this matters, right? If you take anything away from me today, the only thing with business value is this, code and production. That's it. I hate this PowerPoint, and I'm going to acknowledge this in a minute. I made this with Claude. I hate making PowerPoints. I'd rather slam the tip of my Johnson in a car door than make a PowerPoint. All right? I don't do this. I make code. I make apps. I make stuff. I don't like slides. The code and production thing is the only thing that matters. Like when you ask, what are we building? Why do I need better data engineering tools? Why do I need better GraphQL API tools? Why do I need to build an API faster? Because that's how you deliver business value. That's how you get stuff like you put code in production. I have put out plenty of apps and things that sucked. Believe me, when I left Sony, I worked on a streaming platform that was built on blockchain technology called IBM Hyperledger Fabric. It failed miserably. In fact, the first time I was in Huntsville was in 2016. I got invited to Innovate Huntsville. Met some really, really cool people here. I was living in Nashville at the time, and I presented my blockchain-based streaming service. Devin's nodding his head because he remembers that spectacular failure. Boy, that was a stupid idea. But I built it, and it took me a long time. But man, I really wish I would have built it faster because I kind of failed faster and would have realized absolutely no one wants to use this. This is only an idea that's cool in your head, Shane. So why do it this way? Earth science data is abundant, right? Let's say you wanted to build the next Earth science data app. And before you guys got in here, I was actually just talking with Anthony. He's going to make an announcement about this in a couple days, but you guys can follow him on LinkedIn or subscribe to the website or whatever. But what we've decided to do with these databases that I've gone ahead and normalized is Anthony's going to host them at his own cost. And we are going to make all of this Earth science data available to you for free. So why do it? Because I want you guys to build on top of it, right? Same thing with the Mage pipelines. Mage open source is available. You can get it. We're making those available to you for free. I want you to use it. I really want you guys to play around with it. Like the most important thing to remember here is that if you do something really cool and you blend it, make it available to people. I've got Linux for Life tattooed. Seriously, I got Linux for Life tattooed on me. I believe in this like open source stuff, man. This is a lifestyle I lead. But the big thing here, once again, the value is code in production. These AI tools help you ship code faster. The front end stuff like Claude Code's going to nail SvelteKit and React and all that. It can do that all. But the hard part, the tedious part, is still going to be your ETL flows and your API development. So let's build something. I want to thank, once again, my business partner, Matt, man, one of the most brilliant dudes ever. And this is maybe a testament to how we met. He cold messaged me on LinkedIn. I'm a college dropout, by the way. I didn't finish. People say, Shane, how did you finish college in 2 years? I say, I walked out one day and said, I'm finished. But he was a dropout at the time, too. He cold messaged me on LinkedIn. He's like, dude, I want to work at Booz Allen. He's like, I trust me, I can pass any code test. So I was like, you know what, I like this guy. And I gave him an interview, and the dude was stellar. He ended up going back to school. He's getting his master's degree right now at Georgia Tech. So actually, Devin just got accepted to the master's program at Georgia Tech as well. I mean, we got a lot of Georgia Tech folks in here. But he went back and finished. But I couldn't have done that. And obviously, Anthony, the CEO of Devi, for presenting here today, I stand on them, right? Obviously, like Mage was made by Tommy. I am so lucky to know people and be in the same room and be able to develop with them. I never could have made Mage by myself. Ain't no way, bro. I'm not that talented. Never ever would have thought to make something like Devi, right? Because I didn't even think it was possible. Anthony's got this partner named Avi. Avi's like this 6 foot. He looks like Hagrid, by the way. He's like 6'8". He's got this crazy beard, and he's just very soft-spoken, very interesting guy. But these are the two guys. That's what I want to help you guys understand is that if there's two of you in the room today, they were like, hey, you got this idea. Go do it. These guys made a couple $1 million doing it. Like, you can get there. Like, people really want to build these things, and you can do anything. You can work with the DoD if you're a masochist like me. You can work in the private industry. You can do anything. And, of course, I recently accepted a role as a director of innovation at Dynamo. I'm really thankful to Alex for basically hiring me and letting me, like, play all day. Like, I have the coolest job in the world because Alex asked me what I wanted to do. I said, honestly, man, I just want to like build stuff and see if the government wants it. And he was like, sick, let's do that. Let's go. So there's plenty of jobs out there for people who are creative and want to build and ship cool things. Anyway, is that my last slide? I don't know. I didn't make them, right? An agent did, Anyway, and you guys can follow me on TikTok. 250,000 people made that stupid decision. I'm a tragic TikTok success story, so you guys can follow me there for more terrible jokes. I'm usually better in a 3-minute format, I promise. All right, I was told there was going to be a Q&A, which means I have to stand here. But I'm going to sit down. I'm going to do it like David Letterman style. I don't want to stand up too long, bro. I'm not getting paid to be here. I might as well sit. All right. Any questions? I was told, because it's recording, raise your hand and someone will bring you a microphone. See, I listen. Oh, my God, what do you want?
Yeah, Shane, you mentioned earlier that you and Matt created the hardened version of Mage because you wanted to have it deployed in more secure environments for the DoD. Is that available for other folks that are interested in getting a look at the hardened version that might have more secure needs like HIPAA compliance or other federal regulations, and how would they get a hold of you guys about that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for letting me hawk my own product. What a great question. Yeah, so if you want the hardened version of Mage, you can get it through us. It's an Apache 2 license, currently being used by SOCOM. But if you have data security needs, right, whether it's healthcare, could be DoD, could be IC, the challenges of removing external dependencies are all done for you. And it's priced competitively. It's the same price as Mage Pro. You can check out the pricing for Mage on the website. But yes, if you would like or interested in Mage, you can talk to me about it. I promise you, if you're a data engineer and if you've used Dagster or Airflow or, God forbid, AWS Glue or Data Factor, if you're still using kind of the defaults in AWS Cloud, sorry to the cloud people if they're in the room, if anybody. But yeah, if you want to use it, we can teach you how. We can deploy it in any environment. It works in edge environments. It can work completely disconnected from the internet. Like I said, there are no external dependencies. So if you want to deploy this thing in a top secret environment, you're in the IC. We're probably not here, obviously. But yeah, you can. All right. What other questions do we have? I feel like Mr. Rogers here. Isn't this cool? I should like unzip my jacket and then hang it up. And I should have worn a cardigan. I know he wants one. Can somebody bring my old boy Nate a mic? Who's got the mic? Oh, here he is. He's in the front row.
I told Shane I'd sit in the front and ask him the stupidest questions.
I hope so.
This is actually a more technical one. So there's terabytes of NASA data, NOAA data, you name it, right? I think you put on LinkedIn 55 pipelines, 55 burgers, 55 shakes,
Yeah.
and like everybody's like, what? I think you should leave. So that's a lot to ingest. I'm curious whether or not you were ingesting it in real time or doing batch historical records, and then how did you deal with the storage of that? I mean, like to prioritize it so that you could just drag a slider, right, and then like get instantaneous things. And I know you've got a stack to deal with that, but like just from an ingestion standpoint, real time versus batch, like, and the storage problems, how did you deal with that?
Yeah, so everything is getting batched right now. And that's because a lot of, well, I mean, especially with the weather data we're ingesting, let's take NOAA Mesonet, for instance. So if you guys don't know what NOAA Mesonet is, it's a whole bunch of different sensors. Some are privately owned, they're owned by colleges. Your state Department of Transportation has a whole bunch of different weather sensors everywhere for roads. And so when you're ingesting Mesonet, remember that, that's coming in these files called NetCDFs, I think is what they're called. Correct me if I'm wrong, weather nerds. I'm sure a few of you are in here. But anyway, we're ingesting those in real time, like an hour batch out, right? But then I don't really need an hourly update. I could just, batch it, or I could run an API out if I wanted to. What I'm trying to do is aggregate that with other meaningful data. So I'm going to overlay weather for fire, like a fire risk layer from the Forest Service, and say, based upon this, is this because of rainfall? All right, now the fire risk is lower. So I'm overlaying. So 55 pipelines. Some are batch, some are streaming. There's a few streaming out there, but it's a lot more limited. I mean, especially when you talk about the satellite photos, those are months old, right? I don't have once again, I'm doing this on my own. I'm not buying photos from Spire and Maxar. I'm just getting whatever NASA's going to throw me. I don't need high resolution. So the cool part is I can have a mix of pipelines. And the same thing with when we're building the GraphQL APIs. I can just take the tables that are real time, group those together. I can have my batch tables together. And the cool thing is with Devi, which I love about this, you can connect to as many SQL databases as you want. You can have a Postgres database here. I can have a Maria database here. I can have wide column storage in an S3 bucket and be delivering JSON files consistent with like a DynamoDB or a Cosmos DB, like a NoSQL format. So I can pull all those in through a single GraphQL API query. And it makes my life a lot easier because then I'm not fetching from multiple different REST APIs. REST APIs have this problem called overfetching, where you're just getting a lot of data you don't need because that's how the API was. All right, cool, that's not a problem. And REST APIs, by the way, I'm not trying to say that they don't have their place. They do. If you're building an e-commerce store and it's first name, last name, shipping address, the order, yeah, perfectly, that's fine. But when you have nuanced granular climate data or earth science data, you might not get a resource every single time because you're only querying wind. I'm only querying, rainfall. I'm only querying these specific climate sensors from this state. I don't need every single sensor. And that's why the pinpoint accuracy of those GraphQL APIs makes the most sense, especially when we're doing geospatial stuff, because it can be targeted. I'm just writing that query for that one specific thing. That's all I need. It's more efficient. And then it also lets the business logic remain in the database where it belongs. I don't want to be writing business logic with every single app, because that's why your database is there. Like, let the database do what it's supposed to do. Let the API do what it's supposed to do. It's a lot more natural way to do things. And for those of you wondering, where did GraphQL come from? Meta, Facebook. They created it. It was their tool for fetching information while they ruined our lives. Next question. Oh, not everybody raised their hand at once. Hey, Shane, why are you so handsome? I don't know. No, who's up? No? Oh, here, we got one here. There, the microphone man. Are you guys all students? Is that what's going on here? Yeah, sick. Stay in school.
What inspired you to get grills?
Man. So, it's a good question. So when I was growing up, I was from East Atlanta. My dad taught computer science at Georgia Tech, and from a mixed race family. I had an uncle named Uncle Marty, and he was a Q dog. If you don't know, that's a black fraternity. And I thought Uncle Marty was the coolest guy in the entire world because he drove this like sick blue lowered Volkswagen, and he was like, I mean, this is back in the '90s when like people would, it was 1994, right? He's pulling up, he's bumping Tupac in this sick lowered Volkswagen. He's got the grill in, and I was like, I'm going to be that guy. I don't know. Nobody told me that I couldn't be a Q dog. I was 8 years old. I'm like, I'm going to be a Q dog too. And my mom was like, you sure are, honey. Yeah, you got it. You're definitely going to join an all-black fraternity someday. Good luck, bud. But no, I just, I did it, when I was working in rap music. I thought it was cool. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep rocking it. Fun thing about a grill, right? You got to get them custom made. My jeweler is this guy named Jay Kim in Atlanta. He's a dentist. It's the only piece of jewelry, when you think about it, that only fits you, right? A ring, a necklace, earrings. Anybody can kind of wear those. But a grill, it's your teeth, right? When you're doing those real crime, true crime drama shows, and they always do the dental records to identify the person, right? Don't be that person, by the way. That's the last thing I want to be, is identified by my dental records. But if you have to be, have a grill in, right? So please don't murder me, but if I did, I would be the sickest dental record ever, right? All right. Morbid. Bring the microphone to the person in the back here next to the camera, if you could, please. All right. There we go.
Okay, so I have two questions. One of them, she asked me to ask.
Oh, we asked, okay.
She wanted to know how you became a manager for artists such as Travis Scott.
Good question. So, no, this is relevant. Like, how do you go from college dropout? So I was working at a company called MySpace. It was a early social media company. I moved to MySpace Music. MySpace Music was, at that time, it's kind of funny to say it now, we were the largest streaming music platform in the world. Once upon a time, MySpace Music was that. And I started meeting a lot of people in the music business who had like terrible like websites. I mean, you have to imagine, this is 07, 08, right? Probably around the time a lot of you guys were born. I hope so, man. Anyway, I feel real old real fast. But I realized there was a need. I ended up meeting, it's kind of funny how it worked out. I'm going to name drop because it's tacky. I ended up working with this band too. So Ryan Ross was the guitar player for a band called Panic at the Disco at the time. And I went to, we had a MySpace secret show in Las Vegas. So it was The Killers. And then before Panic at the Disco was called Panic at the Disco, they were called Pet Salamander. And Pet Salamander was opening for The Killers. And I met Ryan. And about six months later, they ended up getting signed by FBR. And I ended up meeting Pete Wentz and Patrick Stump from the band, and I made the Fall Out Boy's first website in their e-commerce store. And then I realized, well, Paramore needed one, and so we built their e-commerce store. And because they just, this was kind of like how the early internet developed. There was no Shopify, right? Everything you had to build from scratch. And so I realized that it was going to be a lot more lucrative for me to go work independently with these artists and stay at MySpace. And then, of course, MySpace got bought by News Corp, and they had this big meeting where they said nothing's going to change and no one's getting laid off. Then 2 weeks later, everything changed and everyone got laid off because that's how things work in the world. So if you ever hear that in a meeting, like, don't worry, it's just an M&A and nobody's leaving their jobs. Find a new job. It's happening. They just say that if they're lying to you. But ended up going to work in those bands. And then I started at earmilk.com in 2009 with Monterey and Blake, and we had a pretty big footprint in the music blog world. And I started my management company because we were meeting so many artists, and I had this skill set. I built these e-commerce sites for artists. We had built the data platforms. Once again, there was no analytics platform before. We had to custom build that back end. It's kind of weird describing the e-commerce world to people who only know the world of Shopify and WooCommerce and BigCommerce and all that. Once upon a time, it was a pain to build a merch site for an artist and to get the fulfillment from these companies. Because, like, how do you do inventory, right? Well, they're coming from United Records in Nashville. They don't have a database. Like, literally, when I tell you we were getting, they faxed it to our office in LA. Here's our inventory, ingest it how you. I mean, it was a mess. But yeah, the music business was really cool. I learned a ton. I think that if I took away anything from it, I learned how to be really frugal. The music business is not this big moneyed environment I think people think it is. Remember, you're paying, $15 a month for Spotify. You go to concerts every now and then. All right, the DoD has $1 trillion budget, okay? Like, whatever you pay for music is a very small amount of money. And so, of course, artists always, drive cool cars and stuff. But, the lay people, me, just working at the label, I'm not making huge bucks to go work at the label or even artist management. You'd think artists do better. They don't. And the managers are, just people like me, dudes who have either specific skill sets in data analytics or being able to understand fan behavior. There's a lot of psychographic targeting and overlays that come with understanding fan behavior. I still do, dabble. My brother-in-law is in a country band called Turnpike Troubadours, and I still contract with him. But I help them manage their analytics, just because, he's my brother-in-law, he's my friend, I'll help him out. But, why, right? How can, and let's even dig deeper, because I like the question. How can I use psychographic machine learning models to better target fans of a certain type of music? How do I engage new audiences? When I was working with Ford Motor Credit, right, how do I figure out who's going to buy a Ford Explorer, right? Well, people aren't going to be typing in how do I buy a Ford Explorer SUV? How do I do this? What I started doing is targeting adjacent behaviors. If you have size 5 diapers, if you've been looking at daycare schedules, I know you got kids, you might buy a Ford Explorer. Same thing with country music fans. People are going to be looking for specific types of behavior patterns, and so we use psychographic models in ad tech to better engage fans and plan tours and find people who might be interested in your songs. There's a show called Landman, and maybe you guys have seen it. The writing is so bad. It could have been so good. A big Billy Bob Thornton fan, but how do we find new Turnpike Troubadours fans? Well, we can do the psychographic targeting off of Landman. We can target Landman audiences. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. But remember, the music business is still very similar to the restaurant business, right? You got a product, you got to market it, you got to build people who are engaged, that want to keep going back, that have this cult kind of following, and that's what I did really well in music. If I had to say what skill do I have, I'm good at building cult fan bases, people who want to interact with each other. Honestly, you can laugh at it all you want, but if you look at your favorite bands, what's it, the Beehive, what are the Nicki Minaj fans call themselves, Barbs, right? I look, not a Nicki Minaj, good, not for me, right? She sounds like Abe Lincoln trying to rap the Gettysburg Address but deaf. Anyway, woo, Nicki Minaj burn. Sorry to the Nicki Minaj fans. But no, I just, I'd say, building those fan bases, things that people are I don't know, just passionate about. Building for people's passion is fun. I also just happen to have a passion for, earth science data and delivering to the federal government now, because the music business is cool, but then you age out and it's not fun to be out till 2 in the morning anymore, and you have kids, and it's just, you need to do something that's a little more family friendly. But anyway, I appreciate the question.
Okay.
What else you got?
I still have one more question. I'm sorry.
Oh, one more. Oh yeah, go ahead, keep rolling.
I'll ask another quick one. Can you get your brother to come to Huntsville?
My brother-in-law, Hank. Is Turnpike not toured here? Oh, come on.
I don't think so.
I will text Hank as soon as I get off the stage and let him know he needs to come to Huntsville. I assume there's a few Turnpike fans here, but yeah, I will. Hand to God, I will tell him to tour here. Yeah.
Okay, real quick, you mentioned a lot about GIS technology and geospatial technology in general. How did you become acquainted with that?
I got thrown onto a NOAA contract when I was working at Booz Allen. So I didn't mean to. When you work for a big company, if you ever end up going and working for a Booz or a Deloitte, Lockheed, GDIT, whatever it is, sometimes something will happen where somebody will leave the job, right? Oh, I got a new job, whatever. And if you would like to be helpful to your management, it's always good to be a helper, right? And so I was a little too helpful, and I ended up volunteering myself for more work, and I ended up on the NOAA Mesonet program. And I had to learn a whole lot. There was a guy named Ryan, who's one of my coworkers, a PhD in meteorology, ex-Air Force officer. So he helped get me into understanding a lot of the geospatial data. But really, I just bought books on it. I had to learn. For those of you who've seen my TikToks, there's a bookshelf behind me. I read a lot. There's a secret to what I do. Of course, I dropped out of school, but I didn't let that limit my education. If you don't know about something, the best way to start is to get on Amazon or go to your preferred local bookstore. I know here in Alabama, books aren't a big thing. Burn! Ooh, I'm from Georgia. I have to do it, okay? I look. You read books, right? I didn't know anything about geospatial work or weather or what is a wet bulb. Didn't know any of that. But I had to learn, and so I bought a book and I read about it. And as soon as you have a little bit of domain expertise, it makes it a lot easier to build data engineering pipelines. Because if you would have told me, Shane, I need you to ingest this wet bulb thing, do these transformations, and here's how the format is, I'd be like, but I don't understand, because you don't know what you're doing. I think, once I dug into it, I was like, yo, this is actually really cool. I think it takes a certain personality type. And if you're an engineer, you want to solve problems. For me, the moment I get into something I'm not good at puzzles because I'm colorblind, but, my understanding of people who like doing puzzles is that, you start it and you have to finish it, right? And for me, that's how the NOAA Mesonet program was, where, I was like, look, I've got all these different sensor networks from every state DOT, and they're all ingesting different ways, and they all have different formats. NetCDF is kind of a weird format to think about because it's kind of like a graph. Anyway, it's just cool to solve problems. So when Beth Redfern hit me up and she was like, Shane, I need you to jump on this Mesonet thing for 3 to 6 months until we can staff it, I was like, okay, I'll see what I can do. And then a month into it, I'm like, yo, this is really fun work. I've never done anything like this before. And that's why, even though I make jokes about Booz, I really enjoyed working there. I always had something new to do. They always let me kind of move from project to project. And so, I got to learn a lot. I was doing Navy Human Resources. I did Army Explosive Ordnance Disposal. I did NOAA Mesonet. I worked for a 3-letter agency that we can't talk about. But I got to see and experience a lot of different things, and for me, that problem solving was just being able to, ingest a completely different type of data pipeline. I think I probably have ADD. I've never been diagnosed, but I'm told that people who can't focus on one thing do that. And so, for me, it was something new every day, and I really enjoyed it. All right, what other questions we got? Oh, we got a microphone over here. I want to make sure I'm not killing time here too. I think I have 4 minutes? Yeah.
All right. It's kind of crazy to hear that you're from Grand Forks. That's the first place I lived when I came to the States. Anyways, I just wanted to ask, this is a fun question. Top 3 genres of music. You seem passionate about it.
Sure. I listen, so my top genre that I listen to when I'm working is Witch House. It's really noisy. Bands like Salem and trying to think who else that you guys know. Purity Ring, White Ring. It's kind of witchy, kind of industrial electronic stuff. I try not to listen to things with lyrics when I'm coding because it bothers me. I tend to listen to a lot, you guys might not believe this, but a whole lot of power pop. Love me some Carly Rae Jepsen. I don't know, man. I love really squeaky clean, perfect, Swedish-made pop music. I was bumping Spice Girls in my headphones this morning. I know that's kind of dated, but there's something about technically perfect pop music where I just get along to it. I had a top 10 albums of the year that I put out the other day that kind of reflected that. And then I lived in the Bay Area for a long time in the East Bay, and it was when I was in high school and going through early my college years. So I ended up listening to a lot of Bay Area rap. So you listen to what makes you feel young. You guys won't know this yet, but trust me, when you get older, like the reason I listen to music from the 90s and the early 2000s, because that was what I listened to before it hurt when I woke up in the morning. And so like I listen to Mac Dre, I listen to Andre Nicotina, but I listen to, Bay Area rap music a lot because, it slaps. I love E40. Ooh, but and I know E40 as well personally. He's a really interesting character. But yeah, no, I listen to a lot of Bay Area rap music. So, I have no time left. I'm gonna respect the room. I just want to say thank you all for coming out today. I really appreciate it. You guys are wonderful. Yeah.